This is MRN Crew Call, brought to you by Hercules Tires.
A throwback weekend in Darlington, one of my favorite weekends of the year. The cars, the crews, the stories. It is a special, special time in NASCAR. Can't wait to get down to Darlington, South Carolina. I'm Steve Post, pit road reporter for MRN, and this is Crew Call, brought to you by Hercules Tires, right on our strike. When we look at throwback weekend, this year Darlington did something a little different. A lot of times they'll choose an era where your car needs to be from this era. This year they just decided to open it up, and teams have been very, very creative. All kinds of great paint schemes when we get down to Darlington this weekend, including one of an active crew chief, and a matter of fact, a race-winning crew chief in the sport. That's right. Alex Bowman, the Ally number 48, is going to be an old Greg Ives. Greg's his crew chief, an old Greg Ives paint scheme from his late model days back in Michigan at Norwood Speedway in that area. And it's going to be fun to watch that seafoam green and grapefruit numeraled car go around the racetrack. And it'll be good here on Crew Call because we're going to talk to Greg Ives.
Citywide to countryside, whatever you drive, wherever you go, Hercules has the value, selection, and industry-leading warranty to get you there no matter where the road takes you. Go to HerculesTires.com. There you can find the nearest authorized Hercules retail location to you. Plus, you can use the tire tracker to find out which Hercules tire fits your vehicle the best. That's HerculesTires.com. Hercules Tires, ride on our strength.
It is Crew Call here on Motor Racing Network, presented by Hercules Tires. Greg Ives, that crew chief I referenced in the opening, joins us. Hello, Greg. Welcome into Crew Call.
I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yes. Greg, throwback weekend at Darlington is always really, really neat. I'm a student of the sport. I know you are. We love the cars. We love the schemes. What do you think it's going to be like this weekend with your paint scheme on display at Darlington?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still kind of in shock and awe and of everything that happened. Alex's surprise for me, Ally's, wonderful ability to just make it all happen, and the tie into their colors, the seafoam and grapefruit. How did I know, 23 years ago that it would match up pretty well to Ally's colors? And it just shows how good of guy that Alex is, and how great of a sponsor we have in Ally.
That the seafoam green and the grapefruit color, okay, which again, it's weird how that all comes together with Ally.
Yep.
It's even strange though how it ended up on your race car back in the day. Share that story about how you ended up with that color of a race car.
Yeah, I was coming off of one of my race seasons, and I wanted to upgrade my car, and Dickie and Gene Coleman had a car they wanted to sell, and I went down and looked at it, and it had this paint color on it. And, it wasn't necessarily my first choice of colors by any means, but, Dickie was like, just, consider keeping that color. And, you'll learn why the more you investigate into it. And I kind of did that. I showed up at WIR in Kaukauna, Wisconsin, and I was able to unload the car, and immediately I had positive feedback on the car color. I didn't know the people at all. I didn't know, like I said, I was just starting early in my career, and they didn't know who Greg Ives was, and I didn't know them, and they're like, man, I really, really like the color. It reminds me of a color scheme that Jim Pagel drove in '93, and I didn't necessarily know who Jim Pagel was at the time. That wasn't my home track. I was just traveling there to get some laps, and in the end, I learned the story of Jim Pagel. His success at WIR, not only on the track but off the track, and then also learned of his tragic death during qualifying at the season opener in 1997. So, at that point, I felt like the paint scheme kind of and color kind of chose me. And I felt like I needed a young guy myself coming into the sport, needed to pay tribute to someone who helped pave the way for me, allowed, as grassroots as it gets, you need people to to race, you need to have those great personalities, and Jim was one of those. And it was, looking back now, it's more of an honor for me than it really probably was at the time, just because I didn't know the significance of, what my career was going to potentially lead to and grow. So all in all, the right decision, obviously, and to get it paid tribute, 23 years later, and not only because of me, but because of the whole story behind it. And nobody knew that until this all happened.
I've always said the schemes are great, the uniforms are great, everything is great, but the story behind it. And to me, I have huge respect for guys like Alex Bowman who do what they do in NASCAR. I think I have more respect for guys like Jim Pagel, guys that do it at Saturday night tracks and everything. I just think this is so neat. And you grew up around this. There are so many people, yeah, most of them have not had the tragic ending that Jim did, but this is really neat to tip the cap to those who race on short tracks, and ultimately to a guy who gave it all to short track racing.
Yeah, I mean, I've always said, and I've done it my whole life. Ever since I was born, I was racing of some way, just because my brother and my dad were always into it. So, yeah, I didn't know any other way, right? I knew that was my life, was racing, and we worked to race. We worked to, put tires on a race car, not on your regular car, right? So, the whole, to me, I prefer, going out that way. And I never, you never want to lose your life, but, racing and doing what you love, it's in your blood. And ultimately, it was a sad day. Everybody feels it. But you have some sort of peace with it when it was a racing deal. And, you're never going to ever get over it. But it just puts a little bit more of a calm and a peace about it, and versus maybe some other way.
Yeah, no, it's neat. It's neat, and it's great. Your story is going to be on display, but Jim's story and really the countless racers that he represents going forward. Your background, I feel like I'm renewing a conversation I had with Chris Gabehart earlier this year. racing, and all of a sudden, kind of like, I'm not sure this drive. How did you end up from racer in Michigan to engineer out of Michigan? What was it, Michigan Tech? What's that process?
Yeah, Michigan Tech is where I graduated, and like I said, I've raced my whole life, and I was kind of reliving it. I kind of relive it often, just because people ask how you really got into it, and you must have knew somebody. And ultimately, it is about knowing somebody, but also putting the want behind the dream, right? And it's the steps along the way. If I didn't go to my family reunion in 2003, I doubt I'll be sitting here talking to you today. So, odd event. Like I said, school was starting up at Michigan Tech for my final semester. I wanted to go up there to get ready and kind of chill out for the weekend. And my girlfriend, now wife, Jessica, she's wanted to go to our family reunion in Shaky Lakes. And, I was like, man, that's, a couple hour drive, and I kind of want to just relax. And the introvert in me just kind of wanted to be by myself. And she kind of gave me a guilt trip of, oh, you don't want to show me off to your family. And she's more of an extrovert and wants to, be around family and do all that stuff. So she guilted me kind of into it. And luckily she did, because my dad's cousin's son-in-law, my dad's cousin was there, and his son-in-law worked at Hendrick Motorsports on the 24 car. So his name was Paul Chrisman, and his nickname was Rolly. I'm sure if you ask around the garage, you probably have talked to him, right? And so my dad's cousin, Ken Leeson, I gave him my resume, and he handed it off to Brian Weitzel. And it wasn't easy steps after that, but my foot was in the door. My resume had 3 things on there that they liked: that I was a racer, that I knew how to work on a car, and that I had an engineering degree. So they had a lot of options.
That's first off, that's wow, that family reunion, how that connection is made. Because you're right, there are connections certainly help get to the next level. What I also find interesting about this, though, I was reading an interview, and you said that if you were asked at 16 years old where you would be in 10 years, even at that young age as a young racer, you had determined that you wanted to be at Hendrick Motorsports. What was there about Hendrick that caught your eye?
Yeah, I was a Jeff Gordon fan. A lot of people in that, mid '90s became Jeff Gordon fans, especially young racers like myself. Young kid coming up through the ranks, and kind of changing NASCAR a little bit. Going against the rough and tumblers of Dale Earnhardt and all those guys. So, not that I felt like I was Jeff Gordon by any means, but I did like his style, and it reminded me a lot of the path I wanted to take. And I always knew that I had to put goals in front of me. If I didn't, what was there to achieve? So racing is a tough deal because, just like any small town, whether you play football, basketball, any type of sports, and you're probably one of the better athletes, getting out of a small town to make it big is really tough. And those that put the passion to it and are really good, sometimes they get negative feedback, like you're never going to make it anyways. Why are you trying so hard? I got some of that, but the majority of it was just really pushing me to pursue my dreams. And you ran some hurdles and ran into people that didn't believe what you were setting out to do, but they made me feel at 16 years old that this was a potential dream. Reality was I was going to school to be a doctor. The dream in me said, hey, if I work hard enough, 10 years, I'm going to work for Hendrick Motorsports. And, those are two avenues that I picked up and I was going to work towards. So, that's basically the story of it. And, I wasn't even really driving race cars at that point. I just knew that it was a passion that really had a lot of interest to me. And I knew it was something that, the mechanical and the engineering side of it really sparked my interest for sure.
Did you say at one time you thought about being a doctor?
Yeah. I started out in pre-med, and I was going to be a pediatrician or orthopedic surgeon. I went, did that for a couple of years, and my mom kind of told me that I needed to pursue my mechanical engineering degree just because of my passion for racing. And, someday when I retire from here, maybe I'll go be a doctor.
There we have it. That is so fascinating. I went to Penn State to be an accountant. Okay. And here I am broadcasting NASCAR races. It's funny how life and the world changes. It really is. And that's just really, really neat. I want to keep moving forward here. You get to Hendrick Motorsports. You have so much success. Car or engineer on the car, the 48 car, 5 championships. You moved to Junior Motorsports, back to Hendrick, Dale Jr., the whole thing. We're fast forwarding through 15, 20 years here. And I want to take this to Richmond, because you get to Richmond this year. You're the crew chief on that 48 car where you had 5 championships at the engineer. What did that mean to you here a few weeks later to be able to return the 48 to where it belongs, to Victory Lane?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely pretty fascinating to really even think about it, honestly, because it's just one of those deals where you just never know. I never knew at this point in my career that something like this was even possible. When I was 16 and said I'd be working for Hendrick Motorsports in 10 years, this was not the end. I didn't think this would be the end goal. So, getting that opportunity and as you explained it, just like that, that's what my last 15 years of my career feels like, or however, 17 years at Hendrick Motorsports feels like. A lot of doors open really quickly. A couple of them I had to say I wanted to wait on opportunities because I wasn't ready. But some of those you just had to learn as you went. So it's been a whirlwind for sure. I probably forget more than I remember about all the good times. But the meaningful things that in the people that I've met along the way, the great leaders like Jimmy, who always, no matter his success, he was always the team first. Chad, being able to, we had an open relationship. We were able to communicate really well. Sometimes it didn't sound like it went really, really well, but we were able to talk about, my future, what I wanted to do, always having a goal set in front of me. And I always made him aware of those goals. So, when I wanted to be an engineer, he treated me like an engineer. When I wanted to be a crew chief, he trained me as a crew chief. And, that relationship has gotten me to where I am today. And, but yeah, the whirlwind of, going to junior motorsports, which, that was leaving the mothership and like sink or swim. Mr. H was like, this is what you want, here you go. And junior motorsports taught me a lot. It made me get out from behind the computer and become a people person. And that's something I definitely lacked in, being an introvert and not wanting to communicate all the time. I had to communicate. Otherwise we were going to not be successful, and grew a lot of great relationships over there. I still feel like when I walk in the door, it's home, just like Hendrick Motorsports is. And, fast forward through Chase's, young career, when we went from Daytona thinking that, he needed to just stay on the bottom and get experience, to winning his first race at Darlington. And now we're going to win 10 in a row and we're going to win the championship. Right. So, I mean, his career escalated really quickly, just with that one win. Right. And then the back-to-back win, and then the one in Chicago. And, I got a call from Mr. H in Chicago after the Chicago win. I'm thinking it's a congratulatory phone call, and here it's me moving up to be crew chief for Dale Jr. And if you want to think pressure was high after Chase Elliott won that first race, now as future Dale Jr.'s crew chief with Chase Elliott, how many races should I be winning? What call I was not making right. Now they gave me a Twitter account. Everybody can get on me. So, from getting my first phone to having my first Twitter handle, and hey, it's and now my first throwback paint scheme. It's been a whirlwind, and I'm grateful to have family, friends, and people that support me for sure.
That's amazing. That really is. And to be given the keys to Dale Jr. and now given the keys to the 48 car, obviously doing something right, that they trust you with the most popular driver, and maybe taking over with the former best driver that ever had, that maybe never NASCAR ever had.
Yeah, for sure.
That's
yeah, it's truly an honor. I never got hung up on numbers. When I play basketball, give me a number, I don't care. It's just a stat. If it was 20, it was 5, it was 2, if it was 99, it didn't matter what number I was playing basketball or football, or I never, even my racing, my daughter was like, how did you get number 31? That was my race car number. I said, that's just the first car I drove. I didn't, it didn't matter to me if it didn't have any numbers on it. But the 48, that's totally different. That's become my heart and soul of my racing career. And without that number, I'm just probably just another struggling engineer trying to make it in this big sport of NASCAR. And or I could be at some engineering firm engineering rear window mirrors. I don't know. It's just one of those things that the 48 is always going to be special to me. Every number, the 7 with Regan Smith, the 9 with Chase Elliott, 88 with Dale. It's definitely those numbers are truly what built my foundation in my Cup career.
Neat stuff. Really, truly is. So you pick up a win. Last year you won early. You won at Auto Club and rolled through the season. This year, relatively early here, 9th race, 8th race, whatever it was, Richmond. What did you learn last year as far as getting out there and experimenting. Everyone's like, oh, now you can go try things, but then you have to balance that with stage points. How do you approach this time between now and the playoffs?
Obviously, I still haven't got it right, but I definitely learned a lot from last year. It wasn't so much experimenting as just more over aggressiveness. Thinking that certain strategies were going to work, giving up stage points to try to get stage wins, and just regular wins, and ultimately being cute about your strategy or your setups doesn't win races, right? Executing a good, solid plan, building momentum. I should have finished 5th and I finished 15th. That does not build momentum, no matter how strong or how many times you say those words. So just going out there and being a solid race team that executes well, overcomes adversity like we did at Richmond. And, that's what I've learned over the course of, my career as a crew chief, and especially in this system. Yeah. One win, gets, we think,
Right, exactly.
way this year is going, you think is going to, get you into the playoffs, but we put it together last year when we got to the playoffs, but ultimately I feel like we can be further ahead, score more of those points and stage points and wins to help us go further and further easier in the playoffs.
It's fascinating stuff. It really is. What makes a lot of sense in July and August, in September and October was like, man, I don't know if we should have done that. It's pretty neat, the structure of our sport. That's for sure. I want to wrap this up. I've got a couple more questions. I want to wrap this up about some people in your world. Your relationship. I get a chance to hang out with Alex Bowman at the dirt track at the Chili Bowl. I hung out with him in Virginia with his sprint car. He is unique. He says he's 7 on a quirky scale. You're 9 on a quirky scale. Whatever the scale is, why does this work with you and Alex so well?
Yeah, because I think we're both pretty awkward when it comes to a lot of situations, and not awkward in a bad way. Just we enjoy. I try to enjoy life, and there's so much pressure on being who we are as a title, as a crew chief, as a driver, that when we get away, we just kind of want to be ourselves and be just natural, normal, people like anybody else. And that's the awkwardness. I don't know. I don't think that's a trait that you learn. I think you just have it. And, Alex and I kind of have similar awkwardness, and he thinks I'm more awkward than him, but I think he's more awkward than me. He just has a driving suit, and I just have a headset. So that's about it.
When I was thinking about this interview, because like I said, I am around Alex some with the dirt track stuff, and I'm like, I'm not sure. I think I'm not sure who's 7 and who's 9. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yeah. In the end,
yeah.
If you're hanging out with us, you're gonna probably be cutting up, laughing, and probably laughing at us sometimes and laughing with us the other time. So, and we're going to be okay with it because we're okay with it. And, you're not going to have a lot of drama, that's for sure. And any situation we kind of know we can get ourselves out of, and, try to have a lot of fun with it.
No doubt. And that's what I found with Alex out at the dirt track. It is always a pleasure because he just has such a passion for it. He really, truly does. Finally, for you, other people I want to ask you about, you now find yourself in the role of dad of race car drivers. Your son and your daughter racing out at Millbridge in the box stocks. What is that like?
It's worse than the final race of a playoff, and championships on the line, and you got to choose 4 tires, 2 tires, or fuel only. It's pretty rough on me, honestly. It trains me well for Sunday. And not only that, they have a passion for it. They're the ones that want to go to the racetrack. They have responsibilities so they can go to the racetrack. And Parker, he runs GoPro as well in a go-kart, and it's just amazing at a young age, 6 years old and 8 years old. My daughter is 8, and the skills that they're gaining just from competing, right? Just having friends at the racetrack, and the ability to create friends. Especially now or throughout last year, when they're kind of quarantined and they're staying at home and kind of being homeschooled or stuff like that. It allows them to go to the racetrack and outside their environment and learn and do different things that maybe they couldn't if life was just normal, as you say it. So it's definitely hard on me. I want them to win more than anything. I want the carts to be fast. They often tell me it's my fault if the cart's not fast. One night I was actually, looking up on the internet, like how to make this cart faster, right? Like trying to find some tricks. And I'm not too high and mighty to say I don't know it all, right? And I was looking at it, and my son Parker, he was like, "Dad, what are you doing?" I was like, "I'm just trying to make your cart faster." He goes, "Are you still mad about it?" I was like, "No, I'm just frustrated that I'm trying to, I should be able to get this." And he's like, "It's okay, Dad. I know you're trying your best." And at that moment, I realized he's a real driver because ultimately it was none of his fault, right? Like it was obviously all on me. The setup was bad. I didn't have the right motor, tire pressure, whatever it was. I realized, when he gets out of the cart and says, "I just need it to go faster," it's on me. So, I was like, man, I feel like it's Sunday again. So, but yeah, the life lessons they learn are going to be invaluable. And just the mentality of that, my son Parker says, approaching a race or strategy of a race, he kind of visualizes it in his mind of what he's going to do, and then he goes executes it. So it's pretty neat to see. And another funny thing is my wife was wanting to do some iRacing just to try it, and I got her started on it, and I was like, "You actually drive on the street?" Because it was just so bad. It was terrible. And my 6-year-old son gets on there and he's wheeling it like there's no issue. And so I'm like, yeah, maybe it doesn't necessarily. My wife's a pretty good driver on the road, but when it comes to iRacing, it was terrible. So, yeah, I don't think I'll gain another race car driver. That's for sure. I think we're going to stick at 2.
That's cool. Finally, for you, one of the things I sit out of Millbridge on a Tuesday night when you guys race, or a Wednesday night, I'm out there. The families racing together, and you came from a family that raced together. Your dad, your brother. We started the interview talking about that. There has got to be nothing better than the quality time you have with your kids and with your family with the racing.
Yeah, and it's definitely different than when I grew up, because I was older. I was 15, 16, 17 years old, and my dad was working and my brother was working, and we had that quality time of working on the car and working at the shop. But my dad was like, "Hey, if you want to race, this is on you," right? And that's how I learned the responsibilities to go. Now I'm able to teach that onto my son and my daughter on some of the proper things to do and teach them how to race. But it's the same thing. We'd show up, we had the same pit stall. My dad would always stand in the same spot and watch the race. I had the same cousins and friends up in the stands watching the race, and the guys coming to help me in the race car. And I'm still friends with them today, and still I feel like are my biggest fans. And it's definitely, and the racing family is not always just closed knit, as far as like there's only this big of a circle. It's so much bigger. And I feel like my success, I hope, is felt around the Norway Speedway and Bark River area as part of their success as well, because without their contribution to not only bring their cars out to race against me and challenge me to get better, but also the encouraging aspect of it is like, "Hey, you can do this. Hey, we're proud of you. Hey, go out there and get them. Hey, yeah, it was a bad race, but there's another one. Let's get after it." So to me, that's what I try to do on a daily, weekly basis, is just keep making Bark River, Michigan proud, a small town of 1,600 that's still a small town of 1,600. And, Norway Speedway, which was my home track and helped grow me and raise me and, rough me up and make me tough and take things and give me things and, make me all around a better person, driver, and eventually a crew chief.
Yeah, I love listening to it because mine are Penn Speedway and 5 Mile Point Speedway, Binghamton, New York, and Susquehanna, Pennsylvania, where I was the announcer and did the same thing. So I guess whether it's Norwood in Michigan, Pennsylvania, New York, or the kids racing at Millbridge, we've got pretty good with the racing world. And we're going to Darlington with Greg Ives' car, Seafoam Green and Grapefruit this weekend. Man, I'll tell you, enjoy the weekend. And there's only one thing better than a great paint scheme. It's a great paint scheme in Victory Lane, but enjoy the weekend regardless of where it ends up at the end of the day.
I already got chills, so I'm looking forward to it. And it's going to be a special green flag. And when we get that checkered flag at the end, it's even going to be more special. Thank you for talking with me.
Good to hang out with you, Greg. Best of luck this weekend and on throughout the season. Thanks for your time, man.
All right. Thank you, guys.
There we go. Greg Ives, crew chief for Alex Bowman here on Crew Call.
Sir, are you aware you were going 40 miles an hour? This is a residential area.
Sure, but I'm on my lawnmower? Wait, am I getting a ticket?
No, I've just never seen anyone top 9 miles an hour on one of those bad boys. And mow their entire lawn in 30 seconds? What got into you?
Well, it did fuel up at Sunoco this morning.
At Sunoco, we know how to fuel peak performance. We've been doing it for American racing for over 50 years. Fuel your best.
Let's catch up and chat with Greg Ives. Love his passion, love his story, and I'll just say it's fun to watch him out at Millbridge with his kids racing. It just is. It tickles me to see him running around and trying to make those carts go faster, and just what a good guy. And yeah, all these crew chiefs though have a big challenge this weekend because it's the track too tough to tame. It's the Goodyear 400 at Darlington, and this racetrack will drive every one of them nuts. It'll be crazy, really will. When we look at the racetrack, the surface is all worn out, and it is just going to be a cheese grater, if you will, on the tires. The pit crews had Justin Fiedler on last week. They will likely pit the cars more at Darlington this coming weekend than they have at any race this year. They're going to be busy. It's going to be all 4-tire pit stops. So Darlington is Darlington. And having your car balanced and good on old worn out tires is going to be important because you're going to spend most of your race as a driver on old worn out tires. Stages of this race, I like how this lays out as well. 90 laps, 95 laps, and 105 laps. I tend to like these races where there's 3 somewhat equal stages. And in this case of Darlington, there will need to be strategy in each stage. Pit once, pit twice, where the cautions fly. So it is going to be fun to see how the 400 miles play out at Darlington this weekend. And finally, Motor Racing Network is at Darlington all weekend long, triple header coverage. Looking forward to Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern time. It is the liftkitsforless.com 200. for the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series. We come back at 12:30 Eastern time, early afternoon start on Saturday. It's the Xfinity Series. It is their Steakhouse Elite 200. And then at 2:30 Eastern time on Sunday, it is the Goodyear 400 for the Cup Series, the big boys, and it is going to be great. Also want to mention this. I love my short tracks. Those of you that follow me on social media know that. Saturday night, if you're in the Darlington area, a friend of mine runs Florence Motor Speedway. It is a NASCAR Advanced Auto Parts weekly racing series track, and they have a race, the Prelude to Darlington. It's a 20-minute ride from Darlington. So if you find yourself down there, go support the grassroots of NASCAR racing over at Florence Motor Speedway, and you'll love their late model division. There's some great racers there. So get out there if you can. If not, tune us in all weekend long on Motor Racing Network. Again, appreciate Greg Ives joining us here on Crew Call, but more important than all of that, thank you for joining us here on Crew Call, presented by Hercules Tires.